Hi AJ, I came to see you just before Christmas at
Yeah.
your first one here. It's the first time I ever came. I went up and asked you a few questions and you gave me 4 things to look at, which I really appreciated very much.
Yeah.
Went through a lot of growth, can appreciate everything you're saying now.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being very false in who I was and closed down,
Yeah.
and I actually went down to Victoria and was more of a real person. As I said before, I could feel what people were thinking. It wasn't judgments or anything. It had reached that stage,
Yeah.
and I had got to it where I was closing off because
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with it.
Yep.
I also had a situation with my family where something was happening with my niece. I wasn't told, and I was the only one out of the family not told.
Yeah.
When I went down for Christmas, I could see the parents were creating it, my sister and her husband.
Yep.
I saw my niece with the wild streak in her that I had,
Yeah.
so I could really have that relation with her.
Yep.
2 things. My nephew became a drunken yobbo. He's now getting a lot of trouble with the law.
Yep.
My niece has been sent to a counsellor who wants to put her on depression tablets.
Mm-hmm.
She's just turned 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put my judgments against what's right or wrong on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't condone what they were doing, so I removed myself. I
Yeah.
found it very, very difficult to not come from my heart and say anything, because this is my issue at the moment, and a little bit of confusion. Everybody goes through what they need to at the time for their own growth, and it could be down the track or down the future. We're not to judge that. What do I do, though, on either a metaphysical or a higher spiritual level? Some people say talk to their higher selves. I don't know whether there's spiritual attachments or whether it's their own growth.
Yep.
So at a distance, because now I'm back in Queensland,
Yep.
they're in Victoria,
Yep.
it's at a distance I'm just a little bit unsure of how to help, where I'm not just sitting back going, look, I'm just removing myself from this. I
Yeah.
see it. I don't condone it.
So you want to be able to assist, but you're not sure how to assist.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure whether they've got any spiritual attachments, because basically the parents have got exactly what they asked for. And because they turn around to me and say, you're not a parent, you haven't had children, you don't understand, they also can't see the judgment on me, where my reply now is, that now puts me in the best position to see what they're up to.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm an observer. I am not
Emotionally
emotionally
invested.
attached.
Mm.
And because they are,
Yep.
she won't ask me because she's my sister.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I'm just a little bit
So the
unsure.
issue is, firstly, that your sister and brother-in-law obviously don't want you to know what's going on in their family.
No, my parents have told me, and
Yep.
I just said it doesn't alter my love for my
Yep.
niece and nephew, but it does put me in a quandary as to, do I just walk away and go, leave it, or can I help on more of a spiritual level?
Yeah, well, you always can help on a spiritual level, so we'll discuss that separately. But let's look at, firstly, what's going on emotionally for the children. By the way, whenever you as a parent say to another person who's never been a parent, you haven't been a parent, so you can't tell me what to do, you're actually judging the person, because they might be in a position to be able to help you. So for a start, don't judge a person just because they haven't been a parent. That is a judgment, and all judgments are unloving, right? All judgments are made to prevent you from feeling your own emotion. So when you judge somebody, if somebody comes to you and tells you something about parenting and they've never been a parent and you judge them, you're judging them to stop feeling one of your own emotions. That's the first thing. So that's what your sister and brother-in-law are doing, right? Just preventing you from saying something to them because they actually feel judgment with themselves, and they instead would like to judge you rather than feel that feeling within themselves. The second thing is that children always are the result of this reward and punishment system that goes on in their childhood. So if our children have emotional problems by the time they're 15 and we send them along to a counsellor of some kind, and we refuse as a parent to deal with our emotional issues, then we're not helping our children at all, in fact. And in fact, what we're doing is we are blaming our children for their response to our own emotional injuries. Because what they're feeling right at that moment is the response to our emotional injury. So it's a very damaging thing to actually send a child along, blaming them for my emotional injuries, to send them along to some kind of counsellor, put them on medication or whatever. And also the fact that my son or daughter is drinking a lot or taking drugs and all that is also a complete reflection of something that I've created inside of myself as a parent. All right? And while their reaction to it is probably very self-harming, I need to look at what inside of me created that inside of them. Most parents who have children abusing themselves in some way do not want to look at themselves. And they always want to blame the child for the condition they're in. And this is something that all of us need to address if we're in that state where we've got children who have trouble. They have trouble because of what we have done to suppress them. Now, the way in which we suppress them is not always overt. In other words, it's not always abusive, like physically or sexually abusive. It can be very abusive from an emotional level. It can even be something like so simple, like do whatever I want to make me happy. So if a child is very sensitive and I'm projecting at the child constantly for me to be happy, you need to do what I want, that is a huge damaging emotion that I'm placing on that child. Now, most children growing up will go into two states under that condition. They will go into rebellion, outright rebellion. In other words, they just get angry and upset and get quite rageful with me and with others, and often not with me as the parent because they want my love. So they'll get rageful with others and not me as a result of that. Or they go into this other state, which is abusing alcohol or drugs because they feel so sad and they don't want to feel that sadness, right? So that's the main cause there of what's going on. Now, the question is, how can we help them remotely? Very difficult to help people in this state remotely, aside from prayer. And what prayer is a longing that you direct to God that these particular people can start to learn some things or be attracted to ask you questions about their condition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because my niece had always wanted me to go around for tea, and my sister has always said another time, even when I lived there.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I haven't spoken to them for ages, and yet Gemma's apparently been dead set serious and said, I'm going to live with Auntie Sue, which floored everybody, even me, because I hadn't learned it. But it was by being a bit more distant, and I had to do a lot of processing about my anger and hurt when I was told I don't want her knowing and she doesn't have to know anything. Now, she doesn't know a lot of my background or even what I've been through with my friend and ex-partner with his children. So, again, I was in the perfect position to help her, but I had to do a lot of processing about my hurt and anger to let that go.
And can I just address that for a moment? There is a big law of attraction, so your law of attraction, between yourself as the auntie and your niece. How do you spell niece? I-E-C. And your niece. A big law of attraction.
I can actually really see myself in it, which is why I laugh at her, because she's got such that wild streak that I had.
Yeah, but let's go deeper than that. How your niece has been treated by her parents is a reflection of how you have been treated by your parents. So whatever you are angry about how the parents treat your niece, is actually really about how your own parents have treated you that's yet to be healed. Does that make sense?
It does now. As soon as you said that, yeah, I can relate to that, because I had a lot of grief, because when I was a lot younger, I was always very spiritual and honoured divine path, and luckily I had my nan. And my sisters always thought, that we were in the twilight zone and the things that we could do, and the same with my dad.
Yep.
And they actually sent me to a psychiatrist when I was younger.
Can you
and I
see
can
the
relate
relationship?
to the pressure.
Can you see what's going on between yourself and your niece?
I can now.
She gets sent to a, you get sent to one. There's a lot of patterns here. And if you can look at it as your law of attraction to help you deal with some of your parent emotions, it will be great for you too. So everything you hear about what's happening with your niece that you're feeling about, look at what's going on for you with your own relationship with your parents and allow yourself to start processing through some of those emotions. In fact, that's the best way for you to help your niece.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. It took me a lot of years to process that, but it made me the person that I am. And when I went to see a psychologist,
Yep.
he turned round and, we had a good chat, and he just went, most of the other people you're dealing with are a bit nuts. You're okay. And it was, as I always used to say for many, many years, is this normal? Is this normal? Until somebody said to me many years later, what's normal?
What's normal, yeah.
And I realised then that by what they did, and my nan tried to make light, or my dad sort of said, oh, the doctor just referred you because we didn't know what to do with you, which happens with a lot of spiritual children.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with, so they just call them weird, put them into, and we're talking sort of 40-odd years ago,
Yep.
when people didn't know.
So instead of continuing the story, can we stop the story for a moment? Let's always get back to this. Everything that's upsetting you with your niece is actually what you're really upset about with your parents. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If you can focus on that, what will happen if you can heal this within yourself, that is going to have a huge effect on your niece. Your niece is going to feel more and more attracted to getting that assistance from you. But you can't really help her until you work through this issue with your parents that's being triggered by your niece's parents, your sister. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I can see that.
So if you can focus on that first, then you'll be able to help this situation quite a lot. At the moment, you're going to have lots of judgment towards the parents automatically. Yeah. The reason why is because there's this unhealed emotion towards your own parents, and they look the same to you. Does that make sense to you? And while they look the same to you, you're going to have the same judgments at them. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I hadn't looked at that. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for your time, guys, today. Enjoy your evening.